What's up, everybody? It's your boy Tony Ortiz here. We're back with another This Week in Brave Exvius for November 16th, 2022. And, it's a pretty interesting week. Not for all the right reasons, of course. But we have a bunch of new stuff. New DV with the new weapons available. And, of course, some controversy, as there always is, right? So let's just go through all the stuff and get to it. So let's see, what do we have? We have new units, Final Fantasy 3 fans. This would be a time to celebrate if your units were any good, but of course they are not. Well, let's just say that Awakened Onion Knight is fine. Obviously he's not as good as Golbez. But he's not the same kind of unit, really. You'll be able to use him in a lot of stuff going forward if you have to. But he's not a great option, as opposed to like a lot of the pullable options. That being said, though, getting an MVA that's not like dead on arrival is pretty good. I think he needed just a little bit of help. He didn't get any, but when it comes to MVAs, he's still pretty strong, when you compare him to the other options. So, in that respect, I think that, like I said, there's going to be some stuff coming where if you have him and you don't have a better option, you're gonna be glad you do have him. But if you've been pulling in the last few months on like important stuff, you probably won't use him very much. That's okay though. Make sure you do the events. We've had a daily fight all week, and he also has some events. There's a couple fights in there that Golbez can pretty much get you through on his own. And that's going to give you a bunch of extra black crisps because Onion Knight has a lot of awakenable skills that require crisps like the old skills. So you're going to want to make sure you go ahead and upgrade all those if you plan on using them. But make sure you do the event because that's going to get you a bunch of that stuff without having to blow energy on farming the crisps from the regular little dungeon areas. And then there was a unit that I was excited for and I was going to pull for, but unfortunately he is terrible, and that is the Resident Red Mage. It just didn't work out. We're kind of in this weird space. I think we were kind of talking about it this week, where like a lot of these units that like they said they were going to start looking into upgrading some of the JP units as they came in so that people would actually want to pull for them. And unfortunately, we're just in this space where before Nier, that's probably not going to happen. So, we had no buffs to mana, we had no buffs to Chrono Cross, we had no buffs to Red Mage Ignis here, and we're not going to have any buffs to Edgar and Sabin, who are coming tomorrow from FF3. And man, I really like Red Mages. I liked Red Mages in Final Fantasy 1. I've liked Red Mages in every game that they've been available in. I've never played Final Fantasy 3 though. I've only played Final Fantasy 2 one time. So maybe in the future I will actually play through this game. But I was just going to pull on this just because it was a Red Mage. If they made any of the Red Mages from Final Fantasy 14, I think there's 2 or 3 of them. I would definitely pull for them. I really wanted to pull for this unit. But the problem is when you pull in this game for units that you really, really like, if they have no practical application at all, you're just throwing Lapis away, i.e. you're throwing money away. And that's just really tough to reconcile when, like, they did get buffs? Okay, well, they didn't get buffs that made them worth pulling, I guess. Let's put it that way. Unfortunately, like there's no meta defining or changing unit in that group, sadly. But you know what I mean. Like if they give a unit like 10% more LB damage, is that really a buff? Like does it matter? Not really. So we're just kind of splitting hairs there. But I really wanted to pull on this unit, but like it's so bad that there's no reason to pull on it whatsoever. You're not going to use it anywhere really at all. And that's the big problem with these. Like, it's also a huge problem when they skip stuff. Like, if they skip buffs for units. Like they're skipping Terra and Locks and all the other stuff buffs again tomorrow. So like the buffs that like the JP got like 10 months ago that we could have gotten the last time we had Final Fantasy 6 units around, which is a few months back. They skipped those. We thought, oh, they're probably just going to save them for this banner. They're skipping those again. So it's like, okay, great. What do we do now? And if you're trying to stay with the ability to share rank 1 on Clash of Wills, to get in the top 1,000 of DV, and you don't want to dump like $40 to $75 a month into the game, you know, the cost of like a real like AAA like title video game every month, you really can't afford to pull on units you like if they're terrible. You know, I was gonna go to pity on Cecil because as a magic tank, Cecil's pretty usable. You know, probably not so much when you have Chow. But if there's a fight that specifically punishes countering units, you could use Cecil as your magic tank pretty reliably. He also has a nice niche use of having a auto farming ability in the base form as well when you equip him with, you know, STMR or TMR. It was a lot easier to justify. And luckily I got him like in the first step of the banner I pulled, so I just stopped and I'm like, okay, now I'll just grab some more shards. But like I can't even think of anywhere where I'd use Ignis, and it sucks because he looks really cool. He's a red mage. I've never even played with this character in the actual game he's from, and I want him, but he's so bad that I can't figure out a way to pull him, you know? And it's a lot harder when they're not limited time either. Like Chrono Cross and Legend of Mana, if you love those games, even if the characters aren't like meta defining, you can sort of justify pulling for them because they're limited time, right? You can't get them on a random you know, ticket later. Also, if there's like a rerun where you can buy pull any unit from the last 7 months, you know, pass or whatever, except for the last month or two, you know, you might be able to come back around and pay a little bit less money and just grab an Ignis, you know, later, or grab a Sabin or Edgar later, if you want to complete your collection with characters from games that you like. So unfortunately, it's just I hope that after Nier, they start following through with their promise to like buff some of these JP units so that they're at least usable in content, or they're like at least best in class for like DVs. If they can't make them best in slot for, or, you know, top tier for CAW because they don't want to add morale abilities or whatever, okay, you know, I can understand that. It would just be really cool to see some Clash of Wills teams with like, you know, mainline Final Fantasy units in them. I think it's just bad for variety, and it's probably bad for their bottom line, to be honest. When everybody pulls on the same banner, and then, you know, they're not pulling on 3 of the 4 banners every month, I have to just imagine by probability a decent amount of those people pulling on the same banner are going to get what they need before they go to pity, and then they're going to stop. Then nobody pulls on any of the other banners, or effectively nobody pulls on any of the other banners. You're actually reducing the amount of chances you have to have someone go to pity for a unit that they want by making so few units really, really good and so many units really, really bad. I just think the math would probably work out better. It would be worth it for them to spend like a couple hours of coding a week to, you know, just change some numbers around. Not even necessarily add more abilities, but change some numbers around. Give like a higher LB modifier on some of these units. Give like a higher stat boost passives to some of these units, and maybe that they're easier to gear, or you know, maybe buff their chaining ability modifier to a little bit so that they can actually do some damage when chaining or something like that. You know, or add a couple things to their utility that maybe doesn't require a ton of coding. You know, like, I don't know, make a unit base immune to stop or charm or KO or something, and just give them a passive that's like one line that says, you know, immunity, and add it in, where they don't have to rock an item that, you know, normally they would have to rock to get into a team to do some kind of trial or whatever. I think there's a lot of little things like that could be explored. I mean, it goes back in, again, my reoccurring theory that the game is, especially on global, is in like a theoretical maintenance mode. Like, they put the game in maintenance mode as soon as they launch Clash of Wills. Like, their developers only work on Clash of Wills, and that's pretty much it. And then bug fixing, and then they don't work on anything else. Everything else just comes from JP. I'd love to talk with them about like how skipping things is easier for them than adding it in when they're breaking stuff down and pulling it over from JP and putting it in. I really like because the normal rational thought would be like, oh well, if you're just gonna get this brick of stuff from JP that already has the updates included, why would you do the work to take it out instead of just push it live? So I'd really like to see what their like reasoning for that is, what the technical reasoning is. I know they'll never tell us, but it'd be cool to know. I'm interested to actually go back and look at what buffs the Chrono Cross unit's got now, because I don't recall anything being different, but maybe they got enough to where some of them are decent in DV. I really haven't seen them used in DV, but I think I saw a kid. I think I saw a kid in a couple of DV runs actually, but I haven't seen the other two. So who knows? I'll go back and take a look. But yeah, those are the units. Not much to say. AOK is a kind of cool acronym to have. I thought that tickled me a little bit. I forgot that like his letters lined up to be AOK, which is also a saying in and of itself. And then let's see what else. We got a raid, of course. You always get a raid. This one's pretty easy, as they all are. The only tricky thing is that the bonus units are a little bit different. There's Final Fantasy 3, so you want to take your Awakened Onion Knights. Everything's kind of homogenized now. There's not different levels of EP between like units from the same series anymore. So like you can go back and use these old Onion Knights, as you can see, the old NV Onion Knight, and you get the same bonus as you would of the new Onion, or the newly awakened Onion Knight, which is an interesting thing. I think they'd started this a little while ago. If you go one series back, you get a little bit less, and then of course it's the you get the EP bonus based on the EX level. Bring this up because some of this is changing. You'll see it in the news from yesterday, and then going forward, the events are going to have a little bit of a nerf when it comes to this kind of stuff. As far as I know, not on raids, but only on like the MOG events, the similar MOG events. I think the raids are already nerfed, or we're going down to 20% is what it is, I think. So we're going down to 30% maximum to 20% maximum. JP actually got rid of all of it, so that's actually not as bad as a nerf as it could have happened. I mean, maybe it's like the only positive thing that Gumi's done like the last like 5 months. So, post anniversary, we haven't had much to talk about. Chizuru was pretty cool. There's been some good cards, and then like not destroying our event point bonus. The drop bonus is kind of whatever. Like when you farm these events, you'll get all the drop bonus or drop points you need to open all the chests and whatever. But the event point bonus, that's the really frustrating part. So like if you go to the base event page and you click on the little rewards tab here, these are event points, right? So in order to get this all the way down to the bottom, or not even down to the bottom necessarily, but like usually the 1 million mark, or like the 1.5 million mark or whatever, is where like something of value, of a high value, is the last point you get it. Like a lot of the King Mog events will stop at like 1 million or 2 million, but then there'll be rewards up to like 5 million or something. But the reward of 2 million is like a ticket of some kind, and then the rest is just potions and gil, or like whatever. Like you see this one here stops at 1.5 million for a ticket, and then it's just pots after that, which who cares? So the thing about the King Mog events is that the EP takes forever to farm, and without bonuses, it takes so long. So thankfully, we're not losing that completely, because JP lost it. So we're still gonna have like a percentage bonus on units for event points for the King Mog events. So you'll see that tomorrow. It's not completely gone. The way, like, say, Item World bonus is now gone. I don't know if you noticed that, but, there you go. They should have made units that don't have NVs from 6. Like, yeah, 100%. I 100% agree. I mean, they do this all the time. They do this all the time. Like, my favorite game, or my favorite collaboration, and probably my favorite game that we've had is Xenogears. And the last Xenogears banner in JP was a new Satan and a new Ellie, which were units we already had, 7-star units for. And I was like, okay, that's not that bad. But we also have Rico and Emeralda and Choo Choo sitting here that don't even have 7-star bases. And why didn't they make NV units out of those and maybe NVA a Satan or an Ellie? Like the Fae NVA wasn't insane, but it was still really cool. And I think there's opportunity there. And then it just shows that like JP makes a lot of mistakes themselves, and then Global does nothing to correct it. But yeah, the Final Fantasy VI stuff tomorrow is typically over egregious, which is a Gumi thing. Like they're over egregious, and that's like, I don't know why JP did this, but it's like you already have 2 NVAs, and then you made the same unit as the new NVs, which is really stupid. Like they could have done like Setzer, or like you're saying like Strago. NVA Gao is fine. Like I'm actually liking the idea of more 3-star NVAs, or even 4-star base NVAs. I don't like it with the EX table in play, because then you can't just pull a bunch of them randomly. But yeah, like Strago's a really good example, because he's a 7-star maximum 5-star base, right? And he's like the perfect candidate for a new NV unit. What's the other character that got done dirty? Gogo. We have no Gogo. Why is there no Gogo in the game? Gogo would have been a sick NV to have. You could have actually you probably couldn't have put in like a real mimic skill, because that would have been like pretty rough. But yeah, that's a great example as well. I mean, Cid's like arguably the best character in Final Fantasy VII, and he's not even in the game. And we have like 6 other different Cids. So it's not like we have Sydney, we have we have Cid from 4. We don't have Cid from 6 either. We don't have Cid from 6 or 7. Cid wasn't a playable character in 6, but like he's a pretty important character to the plot. There's a bunch of NPC characters from other Final Fantasy games running around, so it's like it's weird. The unit selection in JP is very weird, and then like Global, maybe they don't want to step on their toes for some reason and pick a unit and make it G-Lex that is from a mainline game. But I think that there's a sense of costing them money in the long run. Like, who cares? Just think of a crazy weird name and then put the unit in. Like Tactics has got no NVs. Final Fantasy 14 has got no interaction. Since they're just like the little one and done that they did. These are like huge franchises that have tons of fans that they're just ignoring completely. And then when they do make the units, they're all copy and paste, or they're terrible. So it just seems weird. It seems weird that they want to do this and they think that they're going to make money off of purely nostalgia, because it's not going to happen. I mean, I pulled on Xenogears. I knew I was getting screwed when I walked in, and it just made me feel even worse after the fact. Right? So like I'm not going to pull tomorrow, because I know those units are useless. I'm not going to pull on this Ignis unit because I know it's useless, and I want them. Like they're cool characters. I want to have them, but I can't do it. Like I can't waste Lapis, because I'm not spending money on the game more than maybe like $6 a month for a Fountain of Lapis. So I just can't do it. If I want to play end-game content, I can't pull on cool units, especially when they don't even get you anything in DV. And even if they did get you something in DV, let's sidebar to DV now, because we're done talking about everything else for the most part. They haven't unnerfed our DV rewards yet. It's crazy. So like even if the units were awesome in DV and terrible in Clash of Wills, there's not really that big of a reason to go for them, because we still are getting nerfed DV rewards. And that's not that big of a deal before we have the 2-handed weapons available. Now we have the 2-handed weapons available, and we can't do anything with them. Like you can't. Most people can't even buy one because they got word to save their dark matter too late. We skipped the whole dark visions, so that's another whole set of dark matter you didn't get that we never got compensated for. Nobody got any free dark matter. They didn't reduce the price of these first 3. I think if they would have, I mean, it's just crazy. it's really silly. There's a couple of new events here. There's Chronicle Battle for Ark's hat. There's this Keeper of Arms fight, and Golbez could pretty much carry you through these, so we won't talk about him too much. But yeah, I mean, 6. But yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, Gao is one of my favorite characters as well, and unfortunately, he's not very good either. At least he has a really good STMR, so there's something, right? If you're gonna make 3 and 4 star units in MVA, I think that's a cool idea, because then at least if you screw it up, as long as you give them a really good piece of gear, people don't feel anywhere near as bad, right? Like it's like Guy, for example. Like Guy is pretty much whatever, right? But he has such a great STMR that if you had like 8 copies of Guy laying around, you're like, wow, okay, well I get 2 or 3 of these belts. That's pretty cool. These are useful. So at least with Gao, like if you've had like, I don't know, if you've been saving copies since knew that Gao was in the game, you're gonna be able to get like 3 or 4 of these Beast Killer STMRs and be like, all right, nice. I might not be able to use them, but at least I can use his item. So yeah. Anyway, DV. This DV was pretty interesting. I actually liked the last 2 fights here. Unfortunately, with the wall, since it's weak to earth, you could just explode it, because earth is the one element you don't want to be weak to right now. Between Sylvie and Sakiko, anything weak to earth is just getting obliterated without thought. But this fight was pretty cool without using earth. I have to admit, like, I enjoyed this. I thought that this Amon fight was pretty cool too, considering that you have other ways to do this fight without Golbez. Because ice is Mediana's element, so if you wanted to use like the mana bursting meteor style fight, you weren't locked out of doing it without Golbez here. You could also use any other meteor user, I guess. I don't mind it when they do light as well, so then you can bring like CD Aerith, and you could use her Holy as well. Although I think her modifiers are pretty bad. But yeah, like this is pretty cool. I didn't mind these, and then the last fight is okay. The last fight wasn't bad. I didn't really mind this at all. He has some really quirky stuff about him that makes it an interesting fight, especially if you have a different set of units. Different people could bring different stuff to this. It wasn't too bad. I think clearly water has an edge, just because we're coming off of a Titus Inject Premium unit a couple months ago. I can show you the team I used. I just copied Sinzar's strat for this because I had an EX2 Titus. So, however, I will say this. This was a very difficult fight, because if you copy that strat and you don't use macros, which I do not use because none of my emulators work, the last chain is very hard to execute properly, because Titus has that weird timing on his, and you need to send people at different times, and then you also want to chain in your meteor at the exact right time. I definitely was expecting to have to try it 3 or 4 times. Luckily, I got it on my first try. But what happens with that is that my variance roll, whatever it was, that's what I was going to stick with, because I wasn't going to run back through it with that difficult of a manual chain, and then trying to get good damage rolls. Again, without DV rewards being buffed, it just isn't even worth it. But I think staying in the top 1,000 is what people should shoot for. I think it's going to be very easy to do that if you have a water team. There's a lot of good fire teams that'll work here. You can utilize the Von 165 Imperil for fire, and then also Sakiko supports the fire or the light team, so there's options. You can use Knights of Grandshelt finally on a DV boss, which is pretty cool. That hasn't been possible since he's been released, since they screwed around with elements a couple DVs ago, and then we skipped one. So yeah, you got a lot of options here, and the boss himself is not that offensive. Like, he doesn't like do anything crazy. He doesn't have any kind of weird charm or stop or instant KO that you have to gear against. So you can just gear the resistances. You can bring a unit that automatically raises your resistance against being debuffed, which there's a ton of. Chizuru, I think, has one. I think Kaito has some. Sylvie, of course. There's a bunch of units you can bring that stop you from getting debuffed. Or you could bring cleanses, which is something we haven't had to bring in a long time. The only thing that might be tricky is finding a 90% breaker that works for you. If you had Lara Croft, she fits in pretty well. She's got some imbuable attacks, and no harm if you're doing fire damage plus water damage in this fight because it's weak to both. Wilk works, of course. Venera is possible, but yeah, she doesn't do a whole lot of damage anyway, and she's locked to dark, so that one's a little bit difficult. But you could always settle for an 89 break as well. And I think you should do pretty well on this fight, even if you don't have too great of units. I'm actually kind of interested to see how my alt account does on this with basically no gear and no units whatsoever. So, no crowned water skill and all that. I'll be happy, if I could get in the top 10K on my alt account. But while we're here, I just want to throw it out there as well. Don't be discouraged if your ranking is a little bit lower than you'd hope for. You always have to remember there's a bunch of cheaters that will get banned out and removed from the leaderboard. As you can see, there's people with cap, which is not theoretically possible. And you can even see they're below rank 150, some of these people. So it's obvious that they've cheated. And all these people will eventually get removed from the leaderboard. Some of them will probably get removed during this maintenance, and then the rest of them should be taken care of in the next maintenance. Even if they're not, you'll start to see them disappear because this Dark Visions will remain open if you're a newer player and don't understand how this works. The Dark Visions will remain open after the 2 weeks. It's just you won't be able to go into any of the fights, but you'll be able to come in here and see the ranking, and you'll see a lot of these people, they'll be removed. And they also get banned from participating in the next Clash of Wills too. It doesn't stop anyone for some reason. I wish they would actually just ban their accounts, but they're too desperate for sales, I guess. So they do is they just ban them for the next DV or whatever. So yeah, literally every person so far that we've scrolled through. Okay, so literally right here from here and above are all cheaters. They're all going to get removed. So that's that's half the list. And then anybody within a few thousand of the cap is definitely probably also, 72. Come on. You don't, unless you've literally dropped 100 grand into the game in the last 2 months, there's no way. My alt account that I play once a day for maybe 20 minutes tops most days is at rank 80 something. And come on, get out of here. So all these people will be banned out, and they won't be here. So whatever your rank is, you can probably safely, reasonably add anywhere from 80 to 100 and something, maybe 80 to 150, and that's what your real rank will end up being. You can see here, these people still have their reign. They I don't even know if you're gonna cheat. Why wouldn't you cheat yourself to maximum? Maybe they think that if they cheat themselves to below maximum that they won't get caught. No, you're definitely going to get banned out here. Yeah, so unfortunately, you don't actually get a real accurate top 10. You can't see where all the cool people are. Even you can see number 1 on my friends list is a well-known and awesome content creator, Flip Method. His score is 192,557. So this is 1.9 million points. Right? There's no way that this many people, he's not too far. So you might have some legit scores towards here at the bottom, right? So this person at 172, this might be a legit score. This could possibly be a legit score. I'm less likely to believe any of these people will have legit scores with this low of a rank because you haven't been playing along and been through enough events. This is probably a legit score. This might be the number 1 overall, right? You never know. But as you scroll up here, it just gets more and more kind of ridiculous. This could be legit right here, 227. This is only 300,000 off of cap. These could be the top. This could be the top whale in global, basically. It's very possible. But scrolling through, I've only seen about maybe 3 or 4 scores that are probably legitimate in the top 100. And you notice this on the first day it goes live. You'll only see 5 or 6 cheaters, and then each day you'll see 5 to 6 more cheaters in the top 100, and then event. But these people should get taken out. So, even for me, Sitting at 532 here, there's a very distinct possibility that if nobody goes crazy or not some new strat isn't found in next week, then I could be back in a top 500. And I would absolutely love to be in top 500, but at the same time, like when you look at the rewards for ranking, the difference between 500 and 501 through 1,000 only being 50 dark matter to me doesn't really say a whole lot. 1,500 lapis is kind of sucky to lose out on, but then again, like, I mean, you can see my lapis count up top, and if my pulls go well for near, I won't have to dip into it as far as I'm thinking I might have to. 1,500 isn't just not that much. It's not worth the grind, unless like the strat's really easy. If the strat was like a hit 3 bolting strikers and gold blaz at the end, then I would definitely maybe put some more time into raising my rank a bit. But with this team, it definitely is a little bit more in depth and a little bit more difficult to justify going through the 5 turns and then manually chaining, the stuff so that it chains properly. Now, if I had macros, again, there's all these little things that go into it. How much time do you want to waste on it, and so on. But my score in the last fight there was 18.9 billion. Wasn't too bad. I think if you do 18, you're probably good enough to be in the top 500. You might miss out a little bit. If you do under 19, you might miss out. 19 should get you in top 500 guaranteed, I think, after they ban all the cheaters. But 18.9 down to 18.1, I think you might be able to sneak in the top 500 as well. So we'll have to wait and see on that. We'll check back on it on next week. But yeah, I'm still pretty upset about the rewards. It's cool to have the new weapons in the game. I can't believe that they didn't give us some kind of compensation in dark matter for having over a year of nerfed dark visions rewards. We've skipped dark visions altogether once, maybe twice actually. And we have a unit right now in the game that's primed to be able to use one of these weapons in Golbez, and then there's a couple other units that can get a lot of work out of the katana. And most of us don't have enough to buy one of them, let alone both. I proposed cutting the cost in half for these 3. If you want to keep it at 10k for the rest of them when they come in, I think that's totally fine. I proposed unnerfing the rewards starting with this DV, and then maybe like a small, like a 1 or 2,000 compensation, whatever. And then I've also said just give us 10k dark matter and keep these where they are, because 10k dark matter is about what you would have lost from missing out on the Japanese rate of rewards over the last year. That we haven't had it, and that's assuming you finish like somewhere top 1,500, top 1,000. You could have lost up to 20k dark matter if you're like a top 10, top 50 or whatever, top 100 person, whatever it is. With all the extra dark matter that JP gets. So yeah, you could have lost tens of thousands of dark matter and rewards, just from them keeping them nerfed. So I think it's really screwed up. I think it's terrible. I hope that on the live stream on Sunday, some people bring this up. I hope that some people tweet this at the account and really stress this, because it's like we've been waiting for these weapons for forever. We've had nothing to do with our dark matter for a year, and then some people have been saving their dark matter for all year, and then they still can't buy a weapon, and that's just absolutely a shitty way to have a shakedown. So yeah, it's all but confirmed. Like, it's 99.99% confirmed that next week is going to be near. Well, I mean, tomorrow, aka Thursday the 17th, is going to be Final Fantasy 6. But that means that the 20th will be near. There's a live stream on Sunday, the monthly live stream. Hiroki's going to be on it. We got confirmation of that. With the news, which definitely means that it's near time. There's no reason for him to come on other than this huge collab. We're just going to have to hope that we're not getting double premiumed. And, hopefully you saved all your lapis and you're getting hyped for that. Next week's show, since we know it's a really super dead week coming up here with Final Fantasy 6 and the second week of a Dark Visions that was fairly easy to get through. There's not going to be a whole lot to talk about, so I guarantee you that we'll spend most of next week's show talking about Nier, because we'll have the information in our hands. We won't have the perfect data mine, of course, but I think we're going to get a lot more information than we typically would get from the standard news, combined with the Sunday stream plus all the stuff that we're going to get in game. And so we'll start talking about a lot of that. I'll talk about my pull strategies, like which units I'm going to go for, what steps I'm going to go up to, and so on and so forth. We'll talk about high points, low lights, things like that. I have a strong sense that they're not going to do an NVA from one of the old near units, which I think is totally reasonable for them to SLB. You don't even have to change the animation, just do an SLB where it does like some more flashes on the screen, and and it's just a higher modifier or whatever and does the exact same thing. Or maybe has a new training family or something. Who cares? I'll definitely cover that if they don't do it. I'll cover missed opportunities and so on and so forth. We'll give it an out of 10 rating before we pull, and then we'll give it an out of 10 rating maybe the next week on the show proper, and all of that. So that's going to be doing it for the show this week. I had some plans to do some stuff after to kind of honor Final Fantasy VI. Unfortunately, the stuff I was testing, I wasn't really enjoying. So what I'm going to do on Sunday stream is probably fire up my Final Fantasy VI save that has max stats. And we'll kind of talk about it on the YouTube channel. There's actually a guide from years ago that I kind of I threw together and, put out that kind of explains like how, it's not exactly how to do max stats. Like it doesn't explain how to get to the point where you do max stats, but it basically says there's plenty of guides out there on how to get through the game with low level. And once you get to the end of the first act and you get into the new part of the game, how to collect characters and then how to max out the stats and so on and so forth, and then what stats to look out for maxing and how to do everything and so on. So I figured like I'll fire that up, talk about that for a little while. And then after that, I don't know. Well, maybe we'll play some Star Wars. I have 2 different Star Wars games that I'd like to fire up, and I haven't touched at all since I got them. And we don't have anything to do for the next 2 Sundays because we won't have Dark Tide until 2 Sundays from now for a Sunday stream. So that's the plan for right now. I would do a Final Fantasy VI randomizer playthrough if I was any good at that, but I have not practiced any of it, and I'm not anywhere near as good as I am at Final Fantasy IV. But maybe that's something we'll do in the future. I don't know. Maybe if we get like some cool Final Fantasy VI units in JP, maybe that will inspire me to go ahead and start grinding on Final Fantasy VI's randomizer or something like that. So that's the plan for Sunday. And then, of course, next week we will be talking about, as I mentioned, Nier, and briefly about the Final Fantasy VI stuff and how disappointed we are in it. But hopefully you guys have a good night. Get your other stuff in before maintenance hits. I'm going to go do that on my alt account right now. And we'll see you hopefully on Sunday. If not, we'll see you next Wednesday for This Week in Brave Exvius. Take care, everybody.